That is the boldest thing I've heard. Wow. That is the boldest thing I've heard. Wow.
AFC South title and wins MVP.
Dude, I can't take you seriously.
Really?
502 games.
No way.
No way. I could have ran for 100 yards this touchdown.
I stopped listening halfway through because that's such a bad take.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the show. It's Neutral Zone Reaction. My name is Jules Bergman, and I have a special guest on the show today. He is an avid college football and NFL fan, proud dog owner, and everybody's favorite DJ at Undeclared. Everybody, Blake Young.
Hey, guys. Thanks so much for having me, Jules.
Of course. I'm happy you could make it for the show today. We got a whole lot of stuff to talk about. We had like six NFL games go into a game-winning field goal this week. We had a lot of college football craziness. Start us off? What game do you want to talk about first?
For me, it's got to be the Vikings. It's been a lot of fun watching the Vikings lately. Obviously, I'm sure a lot of the fans up in Minnesota were terrified watching Kirk Cousins go down a few weeks ago, but they seem to be bouncing back, and clearly they're able to string together a couple wins, so they're definitely killing it right now.
Yeah, they do have America's quarterback at this point, Josh Dobbs. He has been an absolute menace.
It's a good thing whenever you have a rocket scientist in the backfield. They always say, oh, it's not rocket science. Well, just in case it ends up turning into that, they have a pretty good option there.
Oh, for sure. Well, honestly, they're 5-4 right now. I don't see any reason why they don't make the playoffs in the NFC, personally. That might be going a little far, but they look competitive, and they have that like a newfound juice to that offense, and suddenly Jettas is going to be coming back. I see a bright future for them this season.
I definitely don't disagree with you there. Vikings making a playoff berth is definitely on the horizon, I think. As long as they're able to kind of, keep everything together, keep that groove that they got going. Even though he's only been there for like 10 days now, being able to gel with his offense the way that Josh Dobbs does is a really cool thing to watch, and definitely is going to be good for the future of the Vikings.
You think they stick with him next year already?
I'm gonna be honest. That's kind of one of my hot takes for today's show. I think Josh Dobbs is Minnesota's franchise quarterback.
Ooh,
I think
franchise QB already.
I think he might be, just with the way that he's able to come in and command the offense. Obviously, Minnesota hasn't had, the best offensive line in the entire NFL. Those pass rushers, they're able to get in, put pressure on the quarterback. It doesn't stop Dobbs from being able to kind of, get out and make a play happen, whether that's, scrambling outside of the pocket, finding an open receiver, or running it in for a touchdown like he's able to do.
Well, we've got some Viking fans who are fans of the show, so I'm interested to see what they think of that. But it seems to me like, based on our group chats with them, like everyone that I've talked to is just, oh, King Dobbs, he's the spirit of he's the savior of the Vikings right now. So they love him. We all love NFL's Instagram or their Twitter or something he's their guy on the background now. He's running it up. I don't see. Here's the thing. I don't see any way that the Vikings got worse with this. But looking at what they did in the second half specifically, he had them on fire, and then they just kind of died out. Is that something that concerns you at all? Or I don't know. What are your thoughts on that? Because they really stalled, and the Saints got back into that football game.
They definitely did. And I think a lot of credit's going to go to Jameis Winston on that, kind of being able to rally that offense up and be able to really push back in the second half. I don't think it's necessarily a massive negative on the Vikings. Obviously they did kind of, they slowed down a bit, had a lot more gas in the first half. But I think a lot more credit needs to go on the Saints offense, and especially Jameis Winston being able to come in and make the plays that he was making. It was good, gritty football that, obviously the best team was able to come out with a win there.
Well, the Vikings have the Broncos on Sunday Night Football this week, and they're 6-4, not 5-4. After that, they got Broncos, Bears, Raiders, Bengals, Lions, Packers, and Lions. Is this a team that could challenge Detroit for the North, or are you still going to stick with Detroit there?
I think if there's a team to do it, it's gonna be them. At the end of the day, I mean, obviously Detroit's been playing very solid. They're able to make the big plays where they need to, stay consistent in the game. But I think if anybody's going to give them a tough time, it's going to be the Vikings, especially with Josh Dobbs leading them on. So I think we could definitely have ourselves a couple good games there.
I'm going to still stick with Detroit. We're back.
Awesome.
Okay, sorry about that. Both our Wi-Fi's just crashed. Anyway, we talked about the Vikings. Let's get into the Texans game real quick, because the Texans something that have been insane. MVP Stroud at this point, at least I would say he's the front runner right now. It's either him, Mahomes. I don't know who else could be up there. That's got to be one of the games of the week. He did give the Bengals a chance to get back into it with that pick, but what do you think? What do you think that says about the Texans?
I mean, obviously the Texans, they have a very, very young offense. A lot of rookies out on the field playing right now, but I am very, very impressed with what I've seen so far. CJ Stroud being able to kind of command his young guys to be able to make the big plays that they're making. And, even not on the big plays, just being able to pick up those, very important third downs. I definitely think Stroud needs to be in the conversation for MVP.
Absolutely. Well, look at our schedule ahead too. I'm thinking that the Jaguars I think the Jaguars are not going to win this division at this point.
Yeah, I really don't see a way that they're able to when they get held to a field goal for the entire game against the 49ers.
Yeah. Well, Jacksonville has in a 4-week span, they play the Titans this week, I believe. But after that, they've got Texans and then the entire AFC North besides Pittsburgh, all back to back to back to back. So I'm pretty worried about Jacksonville right now. They kind of made their way back into the mix quietly at 6-3, but that was just an utter domination by San Francisco. I don't even know what was going on, but it was a complete disaster for they.
Yeah, I mean, it's Huncho with the Go Jags. You're not gonna like Huncho. You might like what I say here. I don't want to take too much credit away from Jacksonville, because the 49ers now have one of the most terrifying defenses to ever step on a football field. Especially with that new addition of Chase Young. It's kind of bound to happen where if you play San Francisco, you're going to get held to a field goal. You're only going to be able to have a couple chances to score. Plain and simple, that's just what it is. And then Brock Purdy being able to drop back, obviously make some plays happen. Running up the scoreboard like he did this past weekend. I want to have a little bit of faith in Jacksonville, but it was a pretty abysmal performance to watch this past Sunday.
Wi-Fi's are both just
Yeah, I think it's a
says I have one bar
combination
right
of the
now.
two. It's all right. We'll push through. We'll make it happen. But again, yeah, I
Other
mean,
close games because I can't tell if Blake is on it. It's just me. Okay, I can just my entire comment.
you're still there, Jules? Hey, can you hear me? Hello? Are y'all still able to hear me out there? Would you be able to drop something in the chat
Oh,
real
I can
quick? Let me
hear.
know if
I
you can
can
hear
hear
me.
you now. I know the Commons said no thanks, but I go ahead, Blake. Go whatever you were working with.
Oh, I was kind of quiet there for a minute, just trying to
Hey, that's
get
all
it
right.
figured out. Okay, cool.
All right. Well, I want to hear one of your hot takes. So let's go into that before anything crashes again. And sorry to everyone who's watching. Blake owns NCR at this point.
So I have a very good feeling about this. It's a good and bad feeling at the same time, but I think Derrick Henry's time with the Titans may be coming to a close a little bit. Just especially with how he performed this weekend. I mean, he had 11 carries for 24 yards. That's not the Derrick Henry that we've seen in the past. That's able to just dominate, go out there, be really gritty and make those big plays that we need to see out of him. As a Titans fan, it feels very bad to say it because I kind of felt like, the Derrick Henry legacy was going to be a time where we'd be able to make something happen. But I kind of think he's starting to fall off a little bit. And it unfortunately may be time to see him go.
Well, they should have traded him away at the deadline to try and get anything for him. I don't know what the whole Titans front office was doing there.
Yeah, I definitely think a trade before the deadline to try and get some sort of maybe veteran quarterback, somebody that can kind of coach up Will Levis, maybe show him how the game needs to work because his performance hasn't been great either. I mean, like plain and simple, the Titans offense just is not able to produce much of anything. And unless some serious changes happen in how they play their game, I don't think this is going to be a very productive season for them.
Well, is Vrabel's time up?
It might be time to clean house. It's very possible. Vrabel's been there. He did a lot of good things in his time. Gave Titans fans a lot of hope, but it may be time to kind of turn a new leaf. Maybe see what Will can do. Considering we did definitely give up a little bit of the kingdom to try and get him in the backfield. Maybe a new coach could possibly help out a little bit. Maybe getting a coach that's more focused on quarterbacks, almost like a hypo in the NFL, that's able to kind of nurture him and grow him into, kind of the ultimate player that he can possibly be that we just haven't seen yet.
It's almost like someone should hire Cliff Kingsbury off of USC, or not Cliff Kingsbury, Lincoln Riley.
I mean, anything would be better than watching what's going on right now, to be completely honest.
I'm going to disagree with you there. I think I'd rather watch the Titans than the Bears at this point. At least you guys have hope.
we have a little bit of hope. I mean, the Bears are definitely struggling right now. I think that there's definitely still time, give them a couple years to rebuild, kind of, get their feet set. I think the Bears might be able to do something this year. Definitely not, especially with Justin Fields going down, even though I don't know if Justin Fields necessarily needs to stay a Bear. Just with all the complaining that's happened, I don't know if he's going to be the best person to kind of, actually lead your team into a new era if he's not going to be happy with with the people that he's playing with, essentially.
Well, I've given up on Fields already, personally. I know some teams would be like willing to give away a lower draft pick for him. We've had so many opportunities to have end of game drives and come back and win the game or tie it up, and he throws a pick every single time. I'm over it, personally. I love the Bears. I'm not a bad fan, Mr. Rosinski, in the comments. But I've lost hope, and we don't have any other. It's just every time we have a shot, the ball is given away. I'd rather us keep. There were 2 games left this year that I really need us to win, which was the Panthers game, dub, and hopefully we can beat Green Bay at the end of the season just for morals, because we have literally not beaten them my entire time at Tennessee. So I
think the only way the Bears are going to be able to actually win against Green Bay is going to be if Jordan Love goes out there and just throws up punts for 4 quarters straight. And I mean,
he sure didn't in week 1.
It's very possible he could go out there. I mean, if Jordan Love on his own has 4 or 5 turnovers, I see a way that the Bears could pull off a win. But if the Packers are able to keep kind of rolling with what they had, and obviously, if the Bears aren't able to figure it out, at least in some way, I don't know if winning against Green Bay is going to be in the cards this year.
Yeah, I'm not so sure. Do you have another hot take for us? You told me you got a bunch today. Let's hear something flaming that you're gonna get a reaction out of me.
I think the Steelers could lead their division if they had a quarterback.
Well, if they had a quarterback, yeah. The Steelers suck, but they keep winning.
They have so much talent. Talent. Give them a good quarterback, a good veteran quarterback. They're leading their division, plain and simple. I
absolutely cannot believe that Ken Dorsey was fired before Matt Canada and before Matt Eberflus. There's no way. Like, how is that guy still employed?
I really don't know, especially with how much the fan base hates him. That's a first. I mean, really wanting to just kind of hold on to a guy. It's almost like holding on to the rope that's tied to a weight falling off a cliff. Just the more you hold on, the more it's going to hurt. But I mean, at the end of the day, it's tough to kind of say much of anything because the Steelers are still winning games. I mean,
I don't get it. Me and Brady have talked about this on the show almost every single week. And it's like, how did the Steelers win? How did they keep winning? How did they just pull that off? It's absurd. There's got to be a time this season when the AFC North finally starts to pull away. I just don't get it. It's got to. I think it starts this week personally. We'll get into that in a little while. But speaking of the Browns, I want to talk about the Browns real quick because I know they had a crazy ending. So let's go to Arrowhead for our background here. The Browns, just for no reason. The Browns, what a comeback. Deshaun Watson was 14 of 14. The massage man himself. Like, holy cow. They actually pulled together an offensive second half here.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely looking like Deshaun is kind of back in his old form. Going out there, making the plays that he needs to make. I think if he keeps it up, I think the Browns could definitely kind of change people's minds on how they view football in Cleveland.
Well, I mean, they haven't had a quarterback in 23 years or something, so they paid him all that money. Maybe he finally starts to play well. Maybe this week was the turning point. Let's look at the Browns schedule real quick. I'll pull them up because that was just a very unexpected comeback, and the defense really held up. Lamar couldn't really do much in the second half. Cleveland has the Steelers, Broncos, Rams, Jaguars, Bears, Texans, Jets, Bengals. I don't think it'll come down to week 18. I think they can make the playoffs before then, honestly.
I definitely think it's a possibility. A lot of it is going to fall on Deshaun's shoulders. He's going to have to go out there and pretty much play like he did this in this past game. He's going to have to play like that, every single snap, to ensure that. But as long as he stays consistent, anything's possible.
I mean, at this point, he's probably not going to make a Pro Bowl, but this guy could end the season. Suddenly people are saying, wow, we're like worried about the Browns as a Super Bowl threat. I honestly would say that. I said, I know you got a little smirk on your face there. I said a few weeks ago that I think the Dolphins are going to be in the Super Bowl. Then after last week, I thought, oh, dang, the Bengals played really well. And then they end up losing. So here I am, recency bias. Like, you could see the Browns in the AFC Championship realistically. I don't think that's crazy to say.
Given how they were able to play, it's not as crazy as you might think, but it's still pretty crazy. Just trying to think that Cleveland might be able to make it that far. I mean, because at the end of the day, you got to remember they're still the Cleveland Browns.
They are still the Cleveland Browns.
I mean, and I don't want to, say too much on that, but at the end of the day, you kind of got to look at the history and see, what's taken place. And they haven't been able to make that push in so long that I don't know if this is going to be the year to do it. Now, if they're able to, kind of wait it out, maybe pick up some free agents next year, kind of round out everything a little bit more, give Deshaun a few more targets to throw to, not rely on his legs nearly as much as, maybe he had to do at Houston. I definitely think the Browns could make a decent push next year. I just don't know if this is going to be the year that they can do it.
I don't know. It could be kind of those, they have a narrative now. They lost Nick Chubb. They, think of the Acuna, the Braves winning it without Acuna a few years ago, because since baseball references always go to football, obviously, but they lose their best player like week 2 out for the season. Their quarterback has played half of the game so far, and they got bailed out by the referees against the Colts. It's like, how is this team staying in it right now? And then suddenly they end up winning a bunch of games. I don't see any threats to them in that schedule until the Bengals. Obviously, I think they probably lose a game or two because, that's how the NFL works. The Texans are a good team. The Jets could surprisingly show up on defense. Maybe the Jaguars have a good game against them. But the Jaguars game is in Cleveland. The Steelers game is in Cleveland. The Jets game is in Cleveland. We damn well know the Bears ain't beating them. So
Bears aren't beating anybody this year.
They could go on a run. I hadn't really thought about the Browns much because, you look at some of these other teams. The Bills are a complete disaster right now, in my opinion. I don't think the Bills even. I don't know. Are the Bills making the playoffs in your eyes, or are they going to fall short?
I think they might give the Bills Mafia a little bit of hope. They might win a couple big games, but I don't think they're going to make it this year. Especially, with that, obviously big change, getting rid of their OC. I just don't know if they're going to be able to find the right footing there. I mean, now, and you never know, it could be, changing their OC that could solve every problem they're having. We don't know for sure. We're going to have to wait and kind of see next, what they do next week, kind of schematically, kind of see, how it plays out. But I don't see them making it this year.
Okay. That's a fair opinion there. I probably would agree with you because they're so injured. They've still got the hardest schedule in the league remaining, and Josh Allen's been turning the ball over a lot. I don't understand. All right, here's a frustration. James Cook got benched for like 16 plays after his fumble last night. First off, it wasn't a boneheaded fumble. The dude ripped it out while he was falling down. And who's their second best option? I mean, who you got behind James Cook? They just signed Fournette like 2 weeks ago. Who's your thoughts on Henry Ruggs? He is a pretty speedy guy. What can I say? I'm seeing some other comments. What happened to Vic's picks? Vic told me he retired from the show, so I'll try and drag him out later this season, but we'll see about that. Anyway, the Bills are so injured. They don't look good in my opinion, and having 12 men on the field on the kick, it's just so many flaws. It doesn't seem like their year. And now Trayvon Diggs is tweeting about getting Stephon out of there. It's kind of blowing up in their faces all of a sudden. And we haven't even gotten to snow season up there.
I mean, the tide definitely turned very quickly for the Bills. That's for sure. And I really don't think, I mean, one thing I'm trying to keep in mind is, they do still have a very tough schedule going. So if they're able to string together a few wins, then maybe, in a couple weeks, we could have a little bit of a different conversation about them. But just especially based off of what we saw last night, I don't have a very strong feeling about it.
Me neither. All right, well, let's transition into some college football now. And everyone, let's appreciate y'all for watching. Make sure you subscribe if you're new. And thank you to our sponsor, Culver's, of course. They are coming in clutch. Be great. Go get some frozen custard and butter burgers after the show. Well, let's get into the college talk because we've got 2 weeks left in the regular season. There's a lot of big games coming up. Michigan, Ohio State. Who are you picking? Or if you want to start with something a little more outside-ish, but that's a huge determining game, of course.
I mean, that's definitely kind of, that's the biggest game left in regular season, for sure. I think I kind of feel like it's going to be a very close game. I see Michigan coming in and pulling it off because, I mean, at the end of the day, they had to face a lot of adversity this past weekend, with Harbaugh being suspended. And they put their heads down and they said, bet. That's all they said. They all tweeted out bet, and they went out there. They were able to win in a fairly dominating fashion. So I think just, with being able to face that adversity, I see them being able to pull off one against Ohio State.
Okay. I also am going to take Michigan in that game because they've just been so dominant. They allowed 15 points to Penn State, 13 points to Purdue, I believe. It was like 50-something to 13. They didn't allow more than 10 points the entire rest of the season. I just don't see Ohio State's offense getting going against them, to be honest. And Michigan's offense has been good enough to kind of keep rolling how they have been, in my opinion. I'm not too concerned about them.
Yeah, I definitely think.
Go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
No, you got it, man.
Oh, I was just gonna say, like, whichever of these two teams, we know they're not gonna lose to Maryland or whoever Ohio State plays. I believe. I think they play. I think Michigan plays Maryland still. Might be mixing that up. But let's talk about some spoilers. There's some spoiler teams in these last two games. I'm also seeing the comments. She means roll wave roll as in Tulane, not the Crimson Tide or anything, but because we hate the Crimson Tide. But let's address some spoiler teams. I got the Oregon jersey on today, which is, we love DeAnthony Thomas. Do you think anyone could play spoiler to them? Do you think anyone could play spoiler to Georgia, or some other teams? Go ahead.
I think Georgia is kind of set at this point. I really don't see anybody coming in and upsetting them. I know that, playing in Neyland is a tough road game, obviously. A lot of Vol fans here, but I really don't see us being able to pull off any sort of upset win against Georgia at this point in the year.
Me neither. I think that's not even
possible.
It's either them or Bama, but How about some other spoilers? What are you thinking?
I think Oregon State is going to make some Washington fans very unhappy.
Woo! Let's go to Husky Stadium real quick, just cause. Continue.
I it's kind of tough because obviously on paper Washington's going to be the better team, but I just feel like Oregon State, they've been able to be gritty, they've been able to pull out the wins that really matter, and I think that I think they could end up knocking Washington out of the playoff conversation.
Well, did you see the Washington guy drop the ball before the end zone the other day?
Yeah, I mean, especially if they're out there making mental errors like that all game, I think Oregon State's going to have it pretty handily.
It's a big game this week. They Oregon State plays Washington and Oregon their last 2 games. And I'm pretty sure Oregon State's beaten Oregon either last year or 2 years ago. So that hasn't been a lock for either team ever. They got DJ Uigalele. They got this running back who had 4 touchdowns last game. So they are definitely a threat in the game. Do you know who's home for those 2 games?
I don't know for sure, but I can look it up real quick.
Yeah, let's take a glance. We got Oregon State is home against Washington.
That's going to help a lot. I think anything's possible in that game. I'm telling you, it's in the cards. It's all lined up for Oregon State to come in and pull off a pretty big win.
Are you gonna pick them, or are you gonna just say it's possible? Are we going bold here?
Oregon State's got my pick.
Okay.
I think they're knocking Washington completely out of the playoff conversation.
Well, I mean, it's very possible. I don't know. Washington, I would love to see them play Oregon again in the Pac-12 championship, and both teams like still have a shot at the playoff. But yeah, I think Oregon State definitely could play spoiler. I'm gonna go with my spoiler pick somewhere else though.
Oh, what you got?
I interned this summer in Des Moines, Iowa. And there's a team up there in Ames at Jack Cone Stadium that's going to be rowdy this weekend. And they've been quiet in the standings all year, just creeping around the Big 12. Iowa State could absolutely upset Texas this weekend. I think Texas is overrated. I think that they should have lost to Kansas State, but Kansas State pulled off some bonehead plays at the end of the game. They had 1st and goal at like the 5-yard line and somehow didn't score. I've been told by some Iowa State fans today that they are going to be raucous for that game, that it is going to be loud in there. It just reeks of one of those late November, like us against South Carolina last year. Some unranked team that's hanging in there 6-4-ish type of range is going to upset one of these big teams. I don't think Texas is going to perform that well, and I think they're vulnerable. Washington and Oregon haven't looked vulnerable this season to other teams. Texas has. They beat TCU by 3 this week.
Yeah, I mean, Texas definitely has they definitely have some holes in the armor. And I think if Iowa State's able to really kind of, focus on those pressure points, they could pull it off, but I'm going to have to stick with Texas in that game. I think that, they're going to look back on those losses that they've had. I think they're going to look at those. They're going to adjust the right way. And I think they're going to be able to come back and, I really don't think they're dropping a game to Iowa State.
Okay, well, fair enough. Well, let's talk about the playoff, because imagine none of these spoiler teams happen. It's been a lot of conversation all week about who makes the 14 playoff. If you got, let's say if Oregon wins out and you got 2 9-1 or 2 12-1 Pac-12 teams, if Bama wins out and upsets Georgia in, I don't know if I'd even call it an upset. It's 2 pretty evenly matched teams. If Bama upsets Georgia in the SEC championship, if Florida State goes 13-0, and then obviously the Big Ten champ, what are you thinking there?
I'm definitely gonna say the Florida State Miami game is raising some red flags for me. That was a very, very close game. I get that, definitely a rivalry game, but I just think that, with what FSU is expected to do, they should have handled business a lot better this past Saturday.
That's fair to say. Do you think they are raising too many questions for the committee? Because it's tough to let an undefeated team out of that top 4.
It's very tough. I think it's really just going to depend on how these spoiler games play out. I think if Washington wins out, I think if they win out very dominantly, then I think it could definitely create a very big discussion on who should make it. But again, I still got my pick with Oregon State. So as long as that kind of plays out the way that I'm expecting it to, I think FSU makes it for sure, given they win out. I just think that it's raising a lot of red flags.
That's fair. Who's who they're matched up with in the ACC standings right now? Who that championship would be? Louisville is 9-1 in 9-1 this season. So it looks like it'll be Louisville unless they lose a game, and then North Carolina, I believe, would be in that ACC title game. Because Louisville absolutely might beat FSU this year. And I'm cheering for FSU because my sister attends the school, but I haven't been too convinced with their football team either. They're undefeated and they just haven't shown everything. Haven't looked that confident. And I'm seeing some. Go ahead.
So yeah, I don't have a lot of confidence in Louisville either. But I think if they come out and they play their game, something could happen.
Okay. I don't know. I mean, I still would probably stick with FSU, but when you look at even in the hypothetical scenario that they go 13-0, I still think they make it, even with the doubts of the playoff, because they're going to be too highly criticized. And then you got the debate between Texas and Bama, because Bama, if they beat Georgia, are suddenly, we beat Georgia, but Texas beat them in week 2. So I don't know. I've been thinking about that kind of all week. Texas has, I think, 4 ranked wins right now. Or Texas has 3 ranked wins, but if they win the Big 12 and beat Oregon or Oklahoma again, that would be 4 ranked wins. And Bama, if they win out, would also have 4 ranked wins, one of them being Georgia. So I think Texas would make it in over them if they win out, solely because of the head-to-head, even though Bama, I think, is a better team right now. I think Bama would beat Texas right now if they played.
I think so too. I think Bama would definitely win that game. I think that was just kind of an off week for them. There's definitely a lot of bad blood between Alabama and Texas over the past couple years. But I think they would make the adjustment, and they would pull away with the win if they were to play right now, especially with Jalen Milroe. He's just really come into his own, being able to command that offense. I mean, he's kind of taken the team up on his shoulders and hasn't really disappointed just yet.
Yeah, I mean, he's breaking records now. Milroe, he's what did he do? He had 4 rushing touchdowns in a game 2 weeks ago. He absolutely went off against Kentucky too. He's starting to play like a real quarterback, which we weren't really sure of halfway through the season. And I don't know. He turned the ball over against Texas. He hasn't been doing much of that either now. I'm not worried about them. I'm also looking in the comments. We got a Mizzou fan, Jake, hanging around here. Buddy, you guys beat us for the first time in 5 years. Let's simmer down. Do you really want Bama? I don't think they really want Bama. I don't think so.
I think Mizzou against Bama would look a lot like Tennessee against Mizzou. I think it would be a pretty big beatdown.
Mizzou ain't ready for Bama. If you can't beat LSU, you can't beat the Alabama Crimson Tide. And LSU has gotten better. That's Florida State's big win this season. But LSU now, I mean, Jaden Daniels had 200 passing and 200 rushing yards last game. He's starting to be a real Heisman candidate. He's starting to. I know they lost to Alabama, but him, Jordan Travis, Michael Penix, Bo Nix, they're all up there. So delusional. Okay. Yeah, fair enough. Let's get into some This Week in Vegas, because we got some good games to pick from this week. The guest pickers are 5-1, Blake Young. So we'll see if you can live up to it. I'm 7-10. I had a good week last episode. Went 2-1. Hey, it's better than when I went 0-3 a couple of weeks back. So start us off. Give me your strongest pick for this week.
My strongest pick it's got to be Ravens -3.5 over the Bengals. I think that's
okay.
I think that's a pretty good bet right there. I think, obviously the Ravens had a very, very close game this past weekend. I think Lamar is going to be able to adjust, go out there, and I feel very good that they're gonna go out there, they're gonna win, they're gonna cover that spread.
I wouldn't be so confident if I were you. I think the Bengals are in just the same type of position. They really struggled last week, and I don't think they played their best, obviously. I think the Bengals are a really hot team, and the Ravens could have a little trouble with them. The Ravens have not been well against the Bengals in recent history. They lost in the playoffs to them. They haven't had any convincing wins. And 3.5 points. I mean, I would take the Bengals in that. And I think this is too much of a toss-up game, so I stayed away from that game. But I'm not so sure about that pick right there.
I got confidence in Baltimore. I have a feeling they're gonna handle business.
Okay. Well, my first pick of the day is another AFC North game. And as I mentioned earlier about the Browns, I think they're going to start rolling. And I think that Pittsburgh is not going to be rolling. And for Brayton, I will be making a little parlay on the This Week in Vegas picks today, because we're going to be going off. We're going to be having the Browns winning by more than 3.5, because the Steelers aren't going to hang with them. Steelers aren't going to hang.
You got to keep in mind, though, the Steelers have continuously been able to win games. It hasn't been pretty, but the Steelers are winning games, plain and simple. I see Steelers coming in. And
the blasphemy stops now. The Steelers cannot keep getting away with this.
I think they're going to get away with it for another week.
Not in Cleveland too?
Unless Deshaun Watson goes out there and just absolutely balls out with over 300 yards passing and, I don't know, at least 40 yards on the ground, I see the Steelers just being able to really show the grittiness that they've had, and I think Steelers are going to keep on rolling.
But you don't need someone to have a 300-yard passing game to beat the Steelers. They just almost lost to Jordan Love. I don't think Deshaun needs to even play that crazy. But
remember, they won, plain and simple.
I know they won.
Winning games. It's hard to look away from them when they're still winning games.
I don't know. I think the Steelers it has to end. It has to be, something's got to change. And they have been outgained in yards every single game this season. And the Browns lost to them week 2 on Monday Night Football in Pittsburgh. I do not see that happening again. I think the Browns are going to wipe the floor against Pittsburgh this week. I'm thinking give me 28 to a garbage time 14. I think it'll be 21-7, 28-7, and then suddenly Pittsburgh will get one at the end. I don't think Pittsburgh is going to keep this one close, personally. I'm really confident in Cleveland this week, which for all you watching probably means take the Pittsburgh Steelers. But yeah, give me your next pick.
Next one I got Jets +7 against the Bills. It's going to be a tough game, but I've I've got Jets at least covering.
Hey, you know they haven't scored a touchdown in like the last 28 drives.
It's been a while, but I have a feeling that this is going to be their game. They're gonna show out, especially with that big change in Buffalo this week.
Mm-hmm.
I think the boat's been rocked a little bit too much, and I think that's going to be where the Jets are able to come in and kind of punch out a pretty good win for them.
Mm-hmm. Well, a win? Are you taking them to win or plus or just? I mean, +7 includes the win, but do you think they're going to beat the Bills outright?
I think they have a chance. I don't want to say that they're going to win it outright, but I think they have a chance. But I will say for a fact the Jets will cover.
Okay, fair enough.
They'll cover that 7-point
don't
spread.
dislike that pick. I think that's a solid pick. I don't know how much he keeps sticking with Zach Wilson, and Zach Wilson makes his little no look throw, and it was a good Hail Mary throw too. I was impressed with the Hail Mary throw, and he had a good throw to, it might have been Lazard on like third and long, but the Jets, for them to lose that game to the Raiders, like, I don't know. We'll see if they can hang with Buffalo. I'm not sure. It is in Buffalo, isn't it?
Yeah, it's in Buffalo.
Now, clearly that didn't make a difference against Denver this week.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think the Bills Mafia is really going to sway it too much. I see the Jets going out there and definitely making it a football game. I mean, because and what I've really liked to see is just the confidence that Zach Wilson's been able to start kind of growing in himself. Because obviously, going into the season knowing that you're not going to start, and the only reason that he's going in now is because Aaron Rodgers went down with that injury. Being able to see him kind of, become confident in himself and go out there and make some big time plays when they matter. That gives me a lot of hope for the Jets, and I think they're going to go out there and definitely it's going to be a very fun game in New York.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna go with my second pick. This is my second pick. Yeah, this is my second pick. We were just talking about who beat the Jets last week. I see in the comments, how can you not like Aiden O'Connell? Give me the Raiders +12. I think I don't even remember who they play. I picked them +12. Let's see who they're even going against. The Raiders are playing, oh yes, in Miami. So it's a tough game. It's a tough draw. But look at those Raiders. They seem so motivated behind this head coach. Devontae Adams is suddenly, big smile on my face. You got Max Crosby inviting all his good friends out to watch the game. The Raiders, they could be a spoiler team this week. I don't think they're going to win. I think the Dolphins win the game, but it could be a close game, and I think 12 points is a lot here.
I mean, Antonio Pierce has definitely done a lot of kind of shifting the culture for the Raiders, seeing him out there in his black forces, getting his team hyped up for the game. It's, it's definitely a good feeling if you're a Raiders fan, but it's really tough to go up against the system that's in place down in Miami. I mean, obviously, Tua isn't this generational quarterback, but he's playing well within the system. And when you have two of the best wide receivers in modern day football, I think 12 points is a pretty easy spread to cover.
Yeah, I don't know. I think the Raiders are not going to lose by more than 12. I think they can keep it at least a 12-point game. And they have the man himself, Aiden O'Connell. He was our quarterback at Stevenson High School when I was a freshman. So he's that guy, personally. He's a baller. So I'm liking the direction the Raiders are going. I don't think they win the game, but I think they make it, 6 points, 7-point game, in my opinion.
I'm seeing a little bit more of a blowout, but I think that's going to be one that we're just going to kind of have to sit back and watch it.
All right. Sounds good. And what's your last pick for this week?
My last pick, give me the Eagles +2.5, but they're going to outright win it.
Against who?
They're playing the Chiefs.
Oh, you're right.
We got the brother game this weekend. Now, the only part that has me even slightly concerned is that they're playing in Kansas City at Arrowhead. That's the only concern that I have for it. But I think that the Eagles are able. They're just so consistent, and you know what you see is what you get with them. So I got Eagles to outright win it.
Okay. And you also got both of those two teams off of a bye week. So everyone
There's
should
a
be
lot. There's a
healthier.
lot of.
Everyone should be
It
they should be
should be
ready to go
Eagles
with
at
the game
full
plan.
strength. It should be
Yeah.
Eagles at full strength, and that is a very scary team to go up against, even if you have Kansas City going up against them.
Well, my only concern for that game is with given the bye week, I think Andy Reid is the type of guy who can absolutely outcoach Nick Sirianni. He did it in the Super Bowl when they had a 2-week span before the game, or when they had a bye week before the game. I would not doubt Andy Reid. I think he is. I think he's gonna outcoach him, and I think that they're gonna have more. Travis Kelce had a horrible game last week, and the Chiefs lost to the Broncos in their last game. I think this team's gonna be hungry. I think they're gonna say, you know what? We beat the Eagles in the Super Bowl. Why not do it again? So I think the Chiefs are actually gonna win that game. It wasn't my
But
third pick, but I think the Chiefs are gonna win that game.
I think Jake's got a good point. Taylor Swift won't be at that game.
That's a fair
So
point, but at the same time, maybe it's not more than football this time. Maybe it's just who's on the field. Imagine
it could
that.
be. And I think when it comes down to those two teams on the field, I think the Eagles are the better team.
Okay.
Because
Don't
don't get me
fair
wrong,
enough.
I think it's going to be a close game, and in a close game where it just comes down to who's going to win it in the trenches, I gotta take Philly.
Okay. Fair enough. And then my final pick for the day, I'm seeing some comments say you need to say the Cowboys. What about the Broncos or the Chiefs? I'm not going with the Cowboys because I don't like the Cowboys. I'm going to go instead with the other team in Texas. Give me the Houston Texans -4 against Arizona. I look at this game and I'm surprised the Texans aren't favored by more. I think that they're going to have a game where CJ doesn't need to launch some crazy comeback. I think that now that, he's handled the whole, is he in the MVP conversation? I think he's handled that well. And I would not at all be surprised if they just go in there and handle business. I know the Cardinals have Kyler back. I know they looked a little more formidable last week. But then again, that's the Atlanta Falcons. And Brayton just said in the chat, take the bye week against the Falcons. So I'm gonna roll with Houston here in this home game. I think they get the job done by a touchdown.
I definitely like Houston, but I think having Kyler back is really going to change things over in Arizona. Obviously him being out for a while, everybody was concerned with how he was going to come back, but I mean, he came back and it looked like he didn't miss a beat. Kyler Murray is the same old Kyler Murray, and he's going to go out there. He's going to make some crazy plays, some crazy scrambles where he runs back 20 yards and then takes it for a first down. So I think if it's a close game, Arizona maybe has a chance to pull it off. But I think if CJ Stroud goes out there and, works his offense and commands it down the field the way that he's been able to do fairly consistently, then definitely Houston's going to be able to take that win.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think Houston's gonna just let him scamper around like a toddler all game. They've had a pretty solid defensive line this year. They got Will Anderson out the edge. They got Jonathan Greenard. They got some guys in the interior. I wouldn't be surprised if his rushing yards are down a little compared to when it was against Atlanta this week. He was running all over the place.
I think he'll still, even if they lose, I think he'll still have a lot of rushing yards, because at the end of the day, that's his play style. He's gonna put his head down, and when the pocket collapses and he gets flushed out, he's gonna pick up those yards, plain and simple. I mean, he's so fast. Even having those edge rushers, like you said, I think he's gonna be able to get around them and be able to pick up those yards that he needs.
Okay, fair enough. Well, if you were keeping track, If you want to make money this week, take the Cardinals +4, take Miami -12, and take the Steelers +3.5. Those would be the Jules fade. Or if you want to roll with the guest pickers who have been hot this year, take all of Blake's picks. You got the Ravens and the Eagles, and who is your middle
Jets.
pick? And the Jets. That's right. Indeed. All right. Do you have any other hot takes for us before we go, or are we good to wrap up?
I think I was able to kind of touch on everything. I think we definitely were able to cover it all.
Sounds good. Well, I appreciate you coming on to guest host today. Thanks everyone for watching. Glad to have you all on. And thank you to Culver's for sponsoring. Make sure you're subscribed if you are watching right now. And have a great night, everyone. Thanks again, Blake.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Jules.